And staff would like to note just the items to the record. The building permit. Just go through your packet real quick. We have the building permit application here received August 21st, 2020. The building permit application denial letter as well, dated September 18th, 2020. The Board of Adjustment application received on October 6th, 2020, including the attachments. The letters in support from the neighbors at 9307 Old Bottom Road, 1 Glenmary Road, 1 Glenmary Road, 5 Glenmary Road, 4 Glenmary Road, 2 Glenmary Road. The public hearing notice, as Mr. Zobel read earlier, published in the St. Louis County on October 27th, 2020. The staff report you received with your packet dated November 12th, 2020. This PowerPoint presentation given to the board. The City of Olivet Code of Ordinances, including Chapter 400 zoning regulations and the zoning map of the City of Olivet. And the staff would just go over real quick the motion and then get to the discussion. So any motion that we have would be, it's even if you didn't want to vote for it, any motion would just be motion to approve as it's read on the screen. And then that's when the roll call would happen. You would either confirm or deny that vote. And you need 4 votes in the affirmative to approve the motion. But at this point, staff is open to any questions or comments the commission or adjustment may have.
Question, Jonathan. Is there any neighbor that opposes this?
Staff has not received any opposition to this.
The rear addition of the screen porch, as you go, you mentioned that it extends out back further too. That rear addition of the screen and porch that section that comes off, is that in compliance? Is it only this yellow shaded section that's in non-compliance?
That's correct. And I will note that I'm honestly not sure if this piece right here actually exists as it does today. I think they're only coming in for this piece, but they might be connecting to that already, so which might have to change a roof or something. The petitioner is on, the designer is on, and he could be able to answer that. But yeah, the floor plan that you see here, so I would assume that they would tie in, to be able to walk there. So
you did say this is a narrower lot. It's a non-conforming, not standard width lot. Is that right? Did I understand that right?
that'd be correct. The standard is for 100 feet wide. This would be, you can not see it there actually. Okay, would be 91 feet. So yeah, 91 feet, and we just measure that as from here to there. So it's about 91 feet. So it would not be standard.
So we can assume that the original building plans to extend over 10 feet, the actual house was probably because this is a narrower lot.
We really couldn't assume what the decisions they had in the past, because over time, different items change. Front yard setback has changed over time. So have the side and the rear and how that is calculated. So when this house was built, those would have been different standards at the time, more than likely. And it would have conformed to probably what the times were. So,
do we know the approximate date of original construction? I might have missed that.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
The approximate date of original construction?
The approximate date of original construction. Let me go to my.
County has it as 1927, Jonathan.
Oh, 1927, okay.
That's what I thought in the letter that I read that. Like if this house has been built a long time ago before these rules were in place, therefore, at the time it was fully compliant and not unusual. Just was trying to confirm that.
I'm sorry, was that a statement or a question?
Yeah, I mean, you confirmed it. When this was originally built, it was fine.
You had mentioned something about it being closed in versus like an open porch. Is this going to be closed in? Its addition?
It does have a screen system. Usually when we think of more closed in, less screen, more actual walls as a porch.
So this is a screen, I mean, it is an open porch.
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. Any other
Jonathan-
questions?
Yeah, I had a question. Sorry, Jonathan, you mentioned that, and I don't want to, put words in your mouth. So if I'm misstating something, please let me know. But it sounded like you were saying that it was kind of customary to have like a 10-foot porch to be allowed in this type of situation, and that they'd really be going over then by 2 feet because I think it's 12 feet in length. Can you explain that a little bit more, what you were saying by that, like where you would allow the 10 feet in a situation where they're making a porch to encroach into the variance?
Sure, and I'm going to just real quickly bring up, well, so we look at, there's a definition. There's a definition of a deck. I'm going to share my other screen. So we consider anything that is greater than 10 feet,
Okay.
basically into the deck category and more inches off the ground in that case. It's part of the building for determining yard requirements. So, so that's where we get, if it goes over the 10 feet, we start going into the different category. And
Okay.
it's in this particular case, extending from this wall, if they went in 10 feet, we would consider it to be the front porch, and they're allowed, even if the front building line was right here where this house is, they'd be able to extend 10 feet. If they went 11 or 12 feet, even if the property line was here or here, or if they're over the property line, and if it goes over 10 feet, it would fall under the residential addition classification, and at that point, it would need to conform as a building, more than just a front porch. So in this particular case, you could clearly see here's a little over 10 and a half feet, 10.6 here, and they extended to 12, and their intent was to go, meet this wall. And in that case, we were seeing it above that original 10 feet. If it's 12 feet, then it needs to comply.
Right. So if it was 2 feet less and then it wouldn't line up with the existing wall, that would be allowed. But it seems like they're doing it to line up with that wall, which makes sense that you would do it that way. So if it was only the 10 feet, we would be classified as a porch and it would be allowed.
Over the 10 feet, yeah, and that's what my belief is.
Okay.
They also provided a statement in their packet,
Mm-hmm.
so that might give a little more information as to that. But yes, it lines up with the wall today with the 12.
Okay. So if it was just 2 feet less, would it just be then reclassified, or would be classified as a porch? It would fall within that classification, so it would be permitted.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from anybody on the board? All right, I'd like to hear from the petitioner if they'd like to come up and be sworn in, unless they have somebody that they would like to speak for them.
I'm gonna bring them over right now. And Mr. Richardson, you're on a panelist and joining us at this point.
Hello. I believe the homeowner is here as well.
All right, I will need both of you to be sworn in, please.
Okay.
David, you need to unmute, Dave.
Here I am looking at Mr. Lanter. Can you also unmute so I can hear your response?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
All
sorry.
right. No, you're fine. Yeah, I was doing the same thing. Gentlemen, do you swear that the evidence you shall give to the board and the action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Yes, we do.
Yes.
Yes.
You guys are up. State your case, please.
You want to go ahead, Chris?
Yeah, I think you're really, thank you all for looking at our proposal. I think you stated it well. I think you really hit it on the head. I mean, there's really nothing to add. We are architecturally, we would like the porch to tie in with the wall. And there is a portion in the back so that it will wrap around. I do agree with you. I think at some point, I don't know, from even talking to the neighbors here, it's very possible that the house was built before the road was there, is maybe part of the reason why that property line was set. But we very much appreciate your taking a look at this, and we're super excited if we could get a approval on this to move forward. But thank you so much for your time. Ross, do you have anything else?
No, I think Jonathan covered all the points that we were bringing up. The age of the house, as you just mentioned, based on the age of all the other houses on Glen Mary, that they're all 20 years older than your home. So that road likely didn't exist when your house was built. Granted, a lot of things change government-wise and how setbacks are determined over a period of time as new development happens. But obviously, being a non-conforming lot to begin with, it already puts you behind the 8 ball to try to do anything architecturally sensitive to the house or to the neighborhood without going through this process. So.
Anybody have any questions for the applicants?
Can you speak to the use of this this area that you're going to be building? What will be the primary use of it and purpose of it?
It will be like a screened-in porch. So in the back, it will connect. We have double doors coming out of the back of the house from our dining room. So it will be like just a recreational screened-in porch for relaxing and that type of thing.
Okay, and then no stairs or anything to no external door or anything like that. Just the internal.
Yeah. Yes. No. There'll be there'll be no stairs because it will. There's already stairs coming up to that back portion, so we'll have it level with the we have a small back entry that's lifted already, so we'll tie that whole thing together. So that's how you'll get to it, or through the dining room, or that type of situation, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
And Jonathan, if you could show me the 2 feet, if they're asking, basically it's a 2-foot variance, where is the 2 feet? If we were to grant, we wouldn't be needed to be here if they didn't have to extend the additional 2 feet. What would be the outcome of that? It's not gonna line up.
Basically, to my knowledge, that's correct. It would be pulled back a little bit around the route right here or so.
That would be correct.
And is there a problem with doing that?
Well-
Architecturally, if you look at the back of the house with the upper windows, it was more for the balance and the aesthetics of the back of the house. You kick it back, that line drops in underneath the window and pulls that center point over to the left. So it was more about balancing to the architecture of the house as it is now.
And if I could add to that too, it's also just, it's definitely the architectural. I mean, we did an addition here in like 10 or 12 years ago. And we've been pretty sticklers on trying to have it match the original portion of the house. It is an architectural thing, but I'm not gonna lie, it's certainly a space thing too. It's not a large space in the first place. So it would be, a loss of 2 feet by 20 feet, which in a small screened in porch it is also was a consideration for us.
And with the width of it being 2 feet would get us a lot more space width-wise than even if we took 2 feet back. There's a big difference with the narrowness between 10 feet and 12 feet.
But I do think aesthetically it would just look much nicer and fit with the rest of the house.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, anybody else would like to speak out there on behalf of the applicant, for or against? All right. We're going to close the public portion of this meeting and go against and discuss this amongst ourselves and put it for a vote. Guys, what is your thought? Whoever wants to talk, speak up, please.
Hi, this is Cindy Lanter. I just wanted to also let you know, like we put in the letter, that we will be landscaping around that area, and it will be nicely done. It will be a nicely done porch that ties in with the house.
Thank you.
Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you so much for your time.
Who wants to go first? I could pick somebody. David, you're open. Your mic's on. Speak to me.
I think it's a reasonable request. We're talking about 2 feet. It ties into the house. There's when the house was built, where it was located, it seems like there was some. It seems like the rules and the developments around it came after the fact. Yeah, I mean, neighbors are on board. They're the ones that would be impacted the most by this, and I think the narrow lot, all that combined, it seems reasonable.
I'll jump in to sort of support what David's saying. I agree. We have a date of construction that was very early on. They put a road on right next to the folks' property, most likely. That wasn't there before, and now they're, sort of being upheld the rules that weren't applicable at the time the house were built. If this were to extend 2 feet beyond the existing house line, I would think that's a problem. But to stay in line with the original house foundation, it seems very reasonable to me. And I think that we do have, some irregular situations here that we could actually grant this variance pretty easily with the narrow lot and the original date of construction and no opposition. You know, there's no really reason why you wouldn't do this.
Yeah, I also think it creates, I agree with all of those points. I think it also creates a practical difficulty for them if they're having to reduce it by 2 feet, then it's not flush with the house. And then I think it just kind of is awkward from an architectural standpoint. And so there's no need for them to have that burden in this situation, especially when the house is already, a good part of it is already encroaching in the variance. So I don't see any issues.
I agree with everyone's points. I almost feel like it's a grandfathered in situation where this house was originally built with these regulations, and it just, architecturally and aesthetically makes sense that it lines up with the original structure. If they're not asking to go beyond it, and it sounds reasonable to me. It does seem to be odd in a sense to have to pull it in and have a corner of that house sort of extending out from the porch. So maybe it would look awkward, as Omar had said.
Well, and I think we need to really make sure a point with this board in that we stick to the zoning requirements as they're stated, and not allow, if it's, if you can't have the 2 feet, you can't have it. And I think we need to be very firm on that, except when you got the house that's already there. I think that
It is a narrow lot also, so that's another, what do you call it, hardship with the narrow lot? Not really.
no,
Sort of.
but at least I wouldn't think it would be. I mean, again, I would pretty much hold firm that you had to keep within our requirements that we have and that we have moving forward, even though this was built before. But again, it's not going to be closed in. It is an open porch, and it is still keeping within the house as it stands right now. Also, I do like the fact that they did get letters from the residents, the neighbors around, supporting this issue, which means a lot as well. So I think we're ready for a motion.
Motion to grant the variance.
Second,
David, would you like to take a roll for the motion?
Sure. Don Weber,
Yes, with the variance.
Omar Malik,
Yes.
Adrian Hartman,
yes, variance approved.
David Zobel, yes, and Larry Gerstein.
I would say no, but I'll say yes this time. It didn't matter either way, but it passes. So congratulations, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your consideration.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, one down, one to go. David, you're up again. You're working hard tonight.
No, hold on, let me get my papers here.
Now we're gonna go back to the one I originally thought we were starting with. 10 Bond Price Lane.
You guys ready for me to start?
Yep.
Application 2, property address 10 Bond Price Lane. Property owner is Kyle and Rachel Talman. Petitioner is Kyle Talman. Zoning is SR Single Family Residential District. Request is to permit the land development of a patio within a required stream buffer and setback requirements. Variance 1, or request 1, 10-foot variance from the required 25-foot stream buffer of section 420.060.A.1. Variance request 2, 20-foot variance from the required 25-foot stream setback of section 420.060.A.2. Code section is section 420.060.A buffer and setback requirements being part of Article 4 Land Development Requirements, Chapter 420 Stream Buffer Protection Regulations of Title 4 Land Use of the Olivet Municipal Code.
Thank you. Jonathan, you're
All
up.
right. Thank you. Thank you for reading the public hearing, and we have the next item is let's see, we start off with the spirit and intent of the accessory structures. So a patio, flat work is considered under the accessory structure, and we look at the intent and purposes of that chapter is just to complement the stormwater community design regulations, establish reasonable dimensional space, bulk standards to preserve airline and open space, address the impacts of stormwater generated on the site from the accessory structures, and to ensure that development and all that occurs in a manner that protects, provides for and promotes public health, safety, and convenience, comfort, and general welfare. Accessory structures are permitted under Chapter 400 zoning regulations, Section 400, 1592B, and they're allowed to be, generally speaking, a flat work greater than 120 square feet, which this would be. It must be 10 feet from the rear property line, and it has to be within the side yard setbacks. Just want to note that the accessory structure is fully compliant with the 10-foot setback there. This is also regulated under Chapter 420 stream buffer, and the stream buffer is there to when there is the property is adjacent to a stream. There are numerous benefits, either biologically with the stream itself, the area around the stream where it might create areas that remove pollutants that would enter the stream that are carried from the water, either from surfaces, driveways, oils, sewers, and such like that. It also protects the stream by stabilizing it, where the more trees and the more vegetation that's naturally occurring back there, it would help more or less stabilize it than just putting a lot of grass back there, mowing it over with concrete, and changing the flow and the velocity of that. So this Chapter 420 is to look at streams and create buffers where and provide items where you should or should not do in those areas. We use the United States Geological Survey. They identify areas on their maps. In this chapter, they're referred to as natural water courses. On this USGS map, if you have a dotted blue line, from that line for new construction, an undisturbed natural vegetated buffer shall be maintained for 25 feet. And that's measured on from both banks of a stream. So in this case, it would be applicable because there's a concrete channel there. So it'd be applicable from the top of the concrete channel. Additionally, from the first, so you have the creek, you have the first 25 feet, and then you have an additional setback shall be maintained for 25 feet. Which would prohibit all impervious coverage, and grading, filling, and earth moving shall be minimized there. And this is how we go back and forth because this is not the first time a stream buffer was seen by the Board of Adjustment. How we discuss what, or how we define what a buffer is in the stream and the natural water course. In staff's conversation with different organizations, including like USGS, Department of Natural Resources, they see it as it doesn't matter if it's a concrete channel, if it's in a pipe, or it's like just dirt and trees, what you think about when you think about a natural creek. Naturally, the terrain drains one way and it has its high points and its low points, and streams usually are the low points. So that is a naturally forming stream area that water will run towards, eventually hitting the Mississippi. So some parts of this water course that's depicted is in a concrete channel, other it's in a sewer, other areas it's just as open as any other creek, but they do not distinguish between, if it's there, they look at it as, going back to the findings, there are different things that limiting development around that. Even if there is a channel, it does have some benefit to that. Now, under Chapter 420, there is a variance section, Chapter 420-060B. When a parcel was platted prior to the effective date of this chapter and its shape, topography, or other existing physical conditions prevent land development, the Board of Adjustment may grant a variance from the buffer and setback requirements hereunder, provided such variance require mitigation measures to offset the effects of any proposed land development on a parcel. And they'll be considered in the following cases: property shape, topography, or physical conditions at the time of the adoption of this chapter, and also the unusual circumstance with the strict adherence to the minimum buffer requirements in this chapter would create extreme hardship. Chapter 420, stream buffer protection regulations. This is one of the maps that defines the creek. So it's a dotted blue line, as you can see. And this is the USGS 7.5 Topo Series map. Here's a location map of the property where you have North Price Road, Olive Boulevard's here, North Price Road is here, and Bond Price Lane. Herbside Park is just on the other side. Here's an area of the property. As you can see, there are other houses, and some of the properties and what's going on actually has changed over time. I believe both of these properties actually were also before the Board of Adjustment in the last few years. And although the board is to see each property individually, with their consider each case independently, these two were granted variances from the Board of Adjustment in recent years. Staff also notes that here's the existing house. They do have a detached, so they have a detached garage. Part of the garage, which you'll see later, is actually encroaching. It's a grandfathered structure, so it's part of the patio. The light part of this is actually not in the stream buffer. Here's the creek, so 50 feet goes up to about the shadowy area around here. So they have existing structures already in the setback. And you can have a different view here where you have the detached. Here's the property right here. Here's the creek along here. Here's the detached structure, as I mentioned, their garage, part of the existing patio, green space. And here's a picture of the channel here where you can see there are, it's a concrete wall. And there's an inlet on the property back here on the corner. So the inlet picks up water from different, there's an inlet probably every other property, and it picks up and just drains it right into there. Here's a picture of the proposed plans and what they're looking to do. Here's the existing garage. Just to note, they have a little bit of a patio space already existing here. And they would, in doing this, they would actually add more patio space, as you see right here, which is concrete patio. All this would be new. They would also, they're looking to do landscaping and landscape bids as well. So here's that sewer inlet, as staff noted. Water usually drains probably from this way to that way. But here's the inlet that drains directly into the creek, which would be just in this white space up here. Here's a picture of the site plan where you can see the existing house. Here is the property lines. So if you want to follow staff for a second, hopefully this doesn't get that confusing, but and how we establish the stream buffer. Here's the rear of the property line. The creek actually, the center line of the creek or just about is probably this rear property line here. So they actually have part of the creek, about 7 feet of the creek on their property. The stream buffer starts at the bank, or in this case, if we go back, the concrete, the top of the concrete channel here. So from that 7 feet, we measure the first 25 feet. And that's where nothing is supposed to be. And it's supposed to be a natural area that's untouched. And the second area here, which is highlighted red, is the additional setback buffer where impervious areas are supposed to be minimized. And so is earth moving and all that stuff. Staff also notes that within both of these buffers, the garage is an existing non-conforming structure technically, but is existing there along with part of the existing patio area here and part of the driveway as well. So there are non-conformance there. And how staff came up with the calculation for this, so they're asking part of this patio here, which is extending only up into the patio goes the length of the existing garage back here. Staff notes that so from the variance is to vary this section here by 10 feet because they don't go all the way back here, so they're looking for a 10-foot encroachment for this area here, and I believe it's a 20-foot encroachment because there already is some. This area right here is actually already existing. Although it might be encroaching, it's already existing. So that's if it's an ongoing disturbance that they can touch, but the other stuff is over grass, so they would need a variance for that. So that's why it's the numbers that are reflected, the 10-foot variance for the required stream buffer and the 20-foot variance here. Oh, and staff would also note that two other things. The channel does have its own easement. You can see the 20-foot easement back here. There's probably also like a stormwater pipe, that storm sewer pipe that is because of the inlet back there that carries water. And finally, that going back to the accessory structures and ordinance, this patio, if it weren't for the stream buffer, it would be a legal accessory structure that would be permitted. The size and location would be permitted if not for the stream buffer. And finally, staff notes that in looking at how much the stream buffer does take the lot, I believe it is in your packet. The calculation that buildable area to the rear of the home. So it's on page 2 of your staff report. Bullet, the buildable area to the rear of the home without the stream buffer and setback. So without it, it's 4,267 square feet. With the stream buffer applied, so the buildable area shrinks to about this area right here, which is around, and minus the side yard setback, but it's around 820 square feet. So the area that they have outside of their house to work with is 820 square feet. When without the stream buffer, it was 4,267 by staff calculations. There's somewhere roughly around there. So staff's findings: this is a legal non-conforming lot of record, as just like the other one. This width is not, so there's 100-foot width and 150-foot depth. This lot does not meet. It's 125 feet in depth, so it's 25 feet short of this SR, single family residential district's minimums. Also does not meet the 15,000 square feet as well. It's been, according to county, it's been under our same ownership since this year, so I believe fairly new homeowners. Zone SR, single family residential zoning district. And the use is a house. The proposed use is a patio regulated by Article 16 accessory structures and uses. The required rear yard under the accessory structures, Article 16, is 10 feet for patios. The natural water course is defined by the USGS identified on the site, subject to a 25-foot undisturbed stream buffer and a 25-foot additional vegetative buffer. The natural water course exists as a concrete channel on the site. The inlet narrator property drains surface water into the channel. The detached garage and existing patio improvements are within the stream buffer area and are grandfathered in. And the application for the building permit, which you have in your packet, was denied. And also go through the items of the record. We have the building permit application for this received, it's in your packet, received on October 7th, 2020. The building permit application denial letter, which was October 9th, 2020. The Board of Adjustment application received on October 15th, 2020, including the attachments, which also has, there is a letter from the petitioner on the, I believe it's on the back of the application. I'll find that in a second. Sorry, we'll find that. Should be on the back of your second attachment, so I get backwards with all these, but they did have a statement in there. The public hearing notice, as Mr. Zobel read, the affidavit of publication published in the St. Louis County on October 27th, 2020. And also the list of addresses that city staff notified via postcard about the meeting and the date on this for the public hearing. The staff report in front of you dated November 12th, 2020, including the attachments. This PowerPoint presentation given to the board. The City of Olivet Code of Ordinances, including Chapter 400 zoning regulations, Chapter 420 stream buffer protection regulations, and the USGS 7.5 series map. And staff will also finally note that there are two motions for this, or well, two considerations, the variance 1 and variance 2. If you were to, you could either do them separately, or I haven't seen it in the past where if you were to grant both of these, you could note that you are going to, you would have to read both, but you can take one motion with both if you, that's the way the board would go. Otherwise, open for any questions or comments that the board may have.
Questions, guys?
I have a quick question. Currently, the
I just,
drainage area, does that drainage area, I mean, ever overflow? Can it accommodate this flow of the stream?
So the history of this particular section, well, staff will note that this is This area is within a 500-year floodplain. Bring that up right now. Second, this area is within a 500-year flood. This is the house that you see it right here. What that indicates that there is risk for flooding. However, the city of Olivet does not regulate, is not required to regulate the 500-year flood. It only regulates the 100-year flood or a floodway. So this is considered a floodway, like the channel is. And of course, that's what it's made for, a lot of stormwater. But going up that wall, I haven't heard that water has come out of that concrete channel. And the homeowner is, well, he bought the house pretty recently, but so you might not know, but or have the history of it. But to my knowledge, since I've been here at 6 years, I really haven't heard that it has. And during the, there is consideration for, through the State Emergency Management Agency and the Federal Emergency Management Agency to start looking at the flood hazard areas. And during that, there was a comment, an outreach period where people did note that they never had issues. I recall that they lived there for umpteen years and it never got out of the creek, so they were getting their concerns heard by SEMA. So not that I've heard.
Okay, thank you. And I did note, and I thought I heard it correctly, that, or I read in the package at least, that both of the neighboring properties were allowed to improve into both of the zones.
That's correct. The house to the one house, I believe it was last year, they were able to do an addition in the back. And the other house, they did receive for a new house. They received the variance for the new house.
Thank you.
Can I just clarify what I'm looking at on page 7 here in the staff report? So if I'm looking at this correctly, there are setbacks around the entire perimeter of this property, leaving just a sliver of the actual property besides the house to do any kind of additional accessory structure or something. If I'm looking at all these different colors, those are all setbacks that legally should not have anything on them, but that garage was allowed at some point.
So the I'll walk you through it. The blue here is, this is Bondpurse Lane, and this is the front yard in the blue. These orange that are running on the side for about 12 feet or so, that is the side yard setback, which, like the front yard, would not allow the house. Now, at the time when the garage was built, I believe they might have had up to a 5-foot setback from the rear and the side, I believe, before the recent, I would say in the last 3 years, that was changed. So the garage would not be permitted outright to be just 6 feet. In today's standard, it would actually, but it could be, like, I guess, over here, but it could not be within this yellow just outright. The rear yard setback for the house, and I do apologize, actually, I don't think I put it, or no, the rear yard setback is, oh, The rear yard setback is not on here only because as we're talking about the patio, it was going with where the zoning for the patio. So the patio could not be in the front yard here. It could not extend into the side yard. And it would have to remain in this yellow area 10 feet off. So it would be allowed to be in this area where my mouse is going, enclosing this area here. With the stream buffer, which is now this purple area, and the other stream buffer, which is the red area, that is really the bulk of where what's being taken up for the patio. Also, part of the house couldn't go. That's not under consideration, but technically speaking, if they wanted to build the house back here, the house is limited to only to the next like set 9 feet outside their house. So, but the patio is limited. It can only go
So
this
there really
point.
shouldn't be any structure. But in that red area, there shouldn't really be anything.
That's correct.
Okay. So they're really restricted to what we see in white, technically, if we look at all the different
Yes.
setbacks. Okay, which doesn't leave very much to do any kind of improvement or additional extension or patio or anything, if we were to just look at where they should technically be building on. It would just be the white area. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. So to me, that's sort of a hardship in itself, that it's such a small amount of the actual property that could be expanded. If I'm understanding this right.
And I couldn't speak, it's not my place to say if it is or isn't a hardship, but yeah, they would only have, they're legally allowed just to have this space
Okay, got it.
here.
Any other questions?
I have a question on the landscaping. I was reading in here somewhere that the landscaping would actually improve the water flow that's going into the inlet, comparable to what's there now. I think just grass. So I was noting that as, so I think in the favor of the petitioner in a sense. And then I don't understand when it says for variance number 2, impervious coverage, is that just like concrete instead of grass?
Yeah, they would be allowed, it's more impervious, they would be allowed to do grass within that second area.
So is that, yeah, so I guess I was just assuming it was a concrete patio, but what is it gonna be? Is it gonna be a concrete patio?
To my knowledge, it's a
Yeah.
concrete patio.
Okay, so is that what when we say impervious cover, I'm just not familiar with the phrase.
Oh,
That's the
I'm
concrete.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry, yeah.
so impervious would be, yeah, concrete patio, even a house, even,
Okay,
yeah.
in this case, it's the concrete patio, okay.
Yeah.
Got it, thank you.
Do we know if all this extra concrete would be a runoff, like a rain runoff issue? Or is that anything that is concerning or would be considered in something like this versus, grass that might be more absorbing? Or if it was, soft landscaping versus a lot of, looks like this is all, it's attached to the driveway and wraps around the house and connects to the patio they want to add on to. Is that right? So all that is concrete.
I believe all this is either, and I don't know, in looking at part of the older survey, which, well, let me look at the, I think all of that right now is concrete, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, so they would add on this, so all that would be concrete. Now, under our chapter 422 stormwater management regulations, you're allowed to impervious surfaces that are under patios or the building, not driveways, but they would have to, at 400 square feet, they would have to do some type of stormwater mitigation.
Okay,
Now, driveways are not included under that number, and another commission sets that policy, followed by the city council. But in this particular case, the driveway would not be considered. Now, however, you still have to look at, under the Board of Adjustment, as we're talking about some water, it does get under your purview to look at that. In their particular case, what they're noting, and they could probably tell you the conditions of their backyard a little bit better than I can, what's existing now and what they're planning to do. They are looking at and doing this landscaped and mulched area. Those are the types of items that would count as some type of stormwater mitigation. If this were a 400 or more square foot patio, we would look for some type of mitigation. And in this case, it might be the extensive landscaping that they're going to do. If they're doing trees or bushes, that does take in more stormwater. I couldn't tell you, and I'm not an expert on the types of plants, but especially around the inlet, that would also, slow water from going in and soak it into the ground.
right,
So-
like if they were building a rain garden or something like that would help with some water mitigation. It looks like the patio is 380 square feet, so that would be just under the 400 square feet
It would.
requirement. Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Can you go back to the slide on the requirements for the variance in this situation with the stream buffers? I think it was earlier.
The page
Yeah.
7 one.
I think it's this. Yeah. No, the actual code. I guess it would be on. I guess we're looking at. This is the right slide. Yeah. Granted variance. But are we saying we don't need mitigation measures here because the patio is less than 400 square feet?
No, I was saying under a different article, Article 420, you would not need it. And I'm gonna look at that, bringing that up to you right now. Are you guys seeing the code?
Yep.
Okay, great. So under 422.070, concept stormwater management plan review. So it would need this improvement. It's 400 square feet or more, but less than 1,200. It needs to just incorporate something to minimize the impact generated by the improvement.
Okay.
Is what we'd look at. But under this particular case, it's under 400, but still this whole section looks at, under the findings under 420, it's all about water, basically. So they do look at variance require mitigation measures to offset the effects. So in this particular case, I believe the argument on the petitioner was that the landscaping that they're providing is going to enhance the area and provide that mitigation.
Just one more clarification. So the 400 square feet, is that new construction or would you count what's already there that they're adding to?
In this case, we would add what they're adding to. So in this case, it would be mostly this where it says concrete patio on this area, which is roughly the 380 square feet.
So you wouldn't include the existing concrete that it would be, butting up against?
That's correct.
Because it would be much more than 400 square feet total once you put the new patio in, if you consider that entire area.
everything. Yeah, we would consider the new, so they're to replace, they can, but and I believe they might also be putting in, I just want to note this landscape. I believe all the landscaping that they're having is basically new with the exceptions. I don't know if they're, I don't know if it's just brush or if there are any trees that they're gonna redo or, re-landscape, but I believe all this is new, but the petitioner is on to answer that one.
Any questions? Any other questions? Because I'd like to hear from the applicant if we're ready. All right, let's have the applicant sworn in.
Do you swear that the evidence you shall give to the board in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi. So, is it okay to just get started? Sorry.
Please.
Zoom calls, right? Hey, well, thank you. Just first off, for taking the time to look at our project. We just moved in the end of February, and so, or sorry, end of January, beginning of February, and we're looking at, when we look at kind of why the ordinance was written, it talks about protecting kind of stream water quality and reducing erosion. We feel like with the concrete channel, we're not necessarily worried about the erosion piece of it, but we wanted to take additional measures to make sure that any additional water that's coming off the patio was going through some sort of filter, as well as incorporating the right kind of plants. We've been working with I think it's Harkey, I don't know how to pronounce it, Harkey Nursery that's right here in Olivet, to find the right plants that have what they describe as wet feet. So things that can really soak up stuff that you would use in kind of a rain garden, as Dawn mentioned earlier. And so one of the things that we've done just ahead of time is we did make a slight change. So to the area that's around the stormwater drain, in the backyard of the inlet, instead of having that completely just mulch right there, we're still going to put the plants in, but we've gone ahead and done a dry rock riverbed. We just felt like that would, not only with the plants, but with the rocks itself, would be an additional way to filter out that water.
And keep mulch from going into the.
Yeah, we didn't want if there was any sort of like major rain, we didn't want mulch just floating into the drain. And then the second thing, so just to note, we live next to a vacant lot. So those two houses that were shown on that photo, one of them's been completely bulldozed, and they're going to be building a 4,000 square foot house. And then the house to the left of us, so if you're looking out the front door, the house to the left of us, which would be 9 bond price, that house has been condemned for about 2 years. It just sold, but they're either going to be doing an addition, which I have to follow up on because the owner, when we met him, said they were going to be knocking it down. And so we've got just our house kind of in the middle, and you've got these two really, really big homes that are about to go up. And so we're trying to figure out the ways that we can improve our home. And as Dawn mentioned earlier, it's kind of like a little strip kind of going along the back of what we're allowed to do. And so we thought this is kind of a great way to not only beautify our property, but make it useful space for us. And creating just outdoor space that we can use, especially during, however long this COVID deal is going to last, to be able to have people over, but be socially distant. So that's, if you guys have any questions, we'd love to answer any questions you might have, but yeah, grateful.
Can you show us what is existing in the backyard? What's there now and what are you looking? I mean, I was just confused. It all looks new. And I was curious, what is existing?
It would all be new.
Okay,
Right
that's what it
now,
looks like.
except-
By the house.
Yeah. Jonathan, am I able to share a screen? It's okay if not. What I was just gonna say is the only thing really back there were some trees that were growing from there.
You can share.
Okay. Let me pull this up.
Okay,
So-
that helps. Thank you.
So this area right here, there were some small trees that were kind of growing into the condemned lot. And so we had to, with discussion with that neighbor, cut out the trees, which kind of went all the way over here into his lot. And then Key as well took out this giant maple that was mostly hanging over our house, growing out of his lot. So it was kind of just a handshake agreement sort of thing. And then the rest of this, it looks like grass. It's mostly weeds, but we're working on it. And so that's why we went ahead. We've done all of the hard work, I would call it, the heavy lifting so far. Just a lot of Saturdays prepping the ground, getting it ready. And so the next kind of step for us is plants, but we're working with Hark Nursery, trying to figure out when the right time is to plant some of the stuff. We're new to the St. Louis weather, so. But that's the kind of what it used to look like.
Thank you. Questions for the applicant? Come on, I know you guys got questions. None? All right. Let's close the public session and let's go and talk amongst ourselves. Who's up? Dawn, you're up.
Okay. Yeah, so I think back on that screen where we looked at the couple of reasons why we would grant a variance, I think it was B that said unusual, or what was the verbiage? Okay, unusual circumstances when strict adherence to the minimal buffer requirements in the chapter would create an extreme hardship. Just looking at this page 7 and seeing really what they're limited to me is a hardship in the sense of being able to make any kind of real type of improvements. And the fact that there's already a structure that was allowed to be put in that red zone, or mostly red zone, which is the additional stream buffer setback. I like the idea of doing all that additional landscaping to help with the water mitigation, because I know how much rain we can get in these neighborhoods in the spring. I personally experience it, and I appreciate all of the investment in putting in, a proper type of plants and things. So I don't see a hardship for any of the neighbors with such a patio. And, my only concern was, for their sake, having all of this flat concrete, would they have an issue, around their house or anything with such water? But I guess that's not really, we don't really need to, that's not something we would be negotiating here about. So looking at these different setbacks, I would say, due to the constricted nature of what they're dealing with, I'd be okay with the patio. Long story for for a final decision here.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else?
And I'm glad Dawn went first. She hit a lot of good points on the head. That with the precedent set by the other neighbors, just to add to the points that Dawn made, I don't see a true issue with it, especially given the mitigating factors that they're attempting to implement or actually implementing in the process of. It seems to make sense.
Anybody else?
I agree with all those points. They're well said.
Yeah, if there wasn't a stream buffer there, they wouldn't even be obligated to put in a permit. Everything would be fine to do. And we had both properties on each side with similar, well, not similar, but which should be a lesson to us passing those because not that it sets precedents, but because every applicant is on its own, but there was similar cases on both properties next to this. So I would be in favor of it. And I do like the planning they're gonna do, and the plan looks great, so. Anybody else have comments?
No, you guys said it all.
So somebody needs to ask for a motion to pass both variances.
I'll motion to pass variance 1 and variance 2.
Second,
I'll second.
or Don can second.
Can someone read out the, okay, no, you have to, whoever would have to actually read out the,
Oh, okay. I'm still new to this.
Somebody want to read it out?
A motion to grant a variance from the required stream buffer to permit the construction of a patio at 10 Von Price Lane, which authorizes a variance from the required 25-foot undisturbed natural vegetation buffer as required under section 420.060A1, being part of Article 4 Land Development Requirements, Chapter 420 Stream Buffer Protection Regulations of Title 4 Land Use of the Olivet Municipal Code to allow a 10-foot encroachment into the stream buffer as presented the plans before the Board of Adjustment on November 12, 2020. Included in the motion is a motion to approve variance 2, motion to grant a variance from the required stream buffer setback to permit the construction of a patio at 10 Von Price Lane, which authorizes a variance from the required 25-foot additional setback prohibiting impervious coverage as required under section 420.060A2, being part of Article 4 Land Development Requirements, Chapter 420 Stream Buffer Protection Regulations in Title 4 Land Use of the Olivet Municipal Code to allow a 20-foot encroachment into the stream buffer setback as presented in the plans before the Board of Adjustment on November 12, 2020.
Mouthful. Second, anybody?
Second.
Done. All right, David, roll call again to grant the variances.
Do I have to can we vote on both of them at the same time, Jonathan?
Sure, yes.
Okay. All right, this will be on both motions. Don Weber,
Yes.
Omar Malik,
Yes.
Adrian Hartman,
Yes, approved.
David Zobel, yes. Larry Gerstein.
Yes. All right, congratulations. So. Adrian,
have
now-
a set of minutes in your staff, in your packet
Mhm.
for the October 22nd meeting.
Yep.
Should be with your, should have been tied to your, the first copy of the agenda at the back of the agenda. For those, we would just look for an acknowledgement that the board has received the minutes, and please let me know if there are any modifications to be made.
Receive no modifications.
I can't find it, but it looks great.
All right. Those acknowledged by the board. Next, we have staff reports. So the next Board of Adjustment meeting, we're scheduled to hear a variance on November the 30th. It's a Monday. So the Monday after Thanksgiving at 7 p.m. It's a different than what we've had tonight with usually some type of structure being in an area. It's an interpretation that's being appealed. So we'll go through what that is at our next meeting, but it would be an interesting one. Otherwise, no, staff hasn't received any more applications for this year. December 10th, the date we should have just hold, but we haven't received any applications. We still have PCDC going, the Planning and Community Design Commission, which meets on the first and third Thursdays of the month. Right now, there's a 8-lot subdivision just where 9411, 9415 Old Bottom Road is. Two really long properties, pretty wooded. It's just at the northwest corner of Old Bottom at Nealman. So that's going to be under consideration. And City Council, there's a work session on the first Tuesdays of the month, and I believe there's going to be no more council meetings this month. That only one held, I believe, on the 11th, if I'm sorry, the 8th, I believe, of December will be the next council meeting. Right now, we're just looking to the city's website for COVID-19 updates, or St. Louis County, but we'll continue to have COVID-19 updates there. Dillman Road Phase 2 should be opening up in about 2 weeks or so. So by Thanksgiving, by Turkey Trot, the Dillman Road closure should be open again. There's also a road closure north of Olivet going up Ashby Road. The fall leaf pickup has started, so check the Olivet website or your newsletter for information on leaf pickup. Few development updates. You would notice at 170 Olive, it's been under construction for new sewer improvements there, so that just continues on. Our city redevelopment area, as you probably noticed, there is now a garage forming at the city's hall center. So easy storage, there's slow progress. There's a stormwater tank, but that's it right now. We're working on it. Centennial Greenway, they're continuing the alignment and the design that would run from U City to 39 North, which is the Danforth area. So it would run between Indian Meadows Park, Warson Park, and behind the CVS. Firestone, they're just awaiting the closing of the property, and then they get finished. Started. That's at the southeast corner of Olive Boulevard and Dillman Road, just next to McDonald's. And finally, there's the Plant Haven, which is the formerly Ponderosa site that. After PCDC's approval, it's been a little bit slow on that one as well, but we're waiting for them to pick up the permit and get started. And we have a council liaison, Missy Wombat and Carlos Trejo, for any other items that they may have.
You must think you're at PCDC, Jonathan.
Oh, no, there you are. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Carl, yes, I saw her under the participants, and that's where my mind went. So,
Carlos, go ahead if you have anything.
One quick thing that I'll add, Jonathan had worked really hard to coordinate with the mayor, a Zoom with the mayor this Tuesday. If you didn't get an opportunity to see it, he had Rob Kennedy with Missouri Botanical Gardens to talk about rainscaping. Don, you had commented earlier during one of those petitions. Adrian, I'm familiar with your property. And it was a pretty informative presentation. The city has its own YouTube channel under the City of Olivet, and there is a recording of that presentation. So I urge you, if you have an opportunity to take a look at it, it was pretty outstanding. It was well represented. There was a lot of residents and And I've heard a lot of good positives about that presentation from Tuesday. So
Nice.
again, it's on YouTube, the channels City of All of That, and the Zoom with the mayors are recorded on there along with city council meetings.
Great.
Okay, well, the only other things I will add is on Centennial Greenway, there is actually a Zoom presentation on November 18th by the Great Rivers Greenway. The details are on like the front page of the Olivet website if you would like to attend that. That's supposed to give an update. And the only other thing I would ask is if you haven't already, please register for the turkey trot. This year, you don't have to get up on Thanksgiving morning. It's virtual. And even if you don't perhaps want to do the activity, maybe you could buy some swag. Anyway, my point here would be that this is a great way to help people who are truly in our neighborhood suffering from pandemic effects from an economic standpoint, because the food pantry is just outside of Olivet. The people that patronize it are local area people. And so I would just put that forward and hope you decide to, give it a try. That's all I have. If there's questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
We appreciate it. I think we can adjourn the meeting.
I always appreciate your time. You prove what a great community we are. Thank you.
Thank you. Guys, we'll see you next week.
Okay.
A couple
Take care.
weeks.
Thank you all.
Couple weeks.
Bye.
Yes, thanks.
Have a good night.
You too.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Right.